So I had quite a roundabout route that got me into epilepsy. So my background initially was in electrophysiology and human psychophysics of the visual system. And I did a PhD in that and then did some postdoc work and got to the point where I decided I wanted to actually do something a little more applied that related to human health. And so I inquired around and I found out about neuropsychology, and then I thought that sounded like the right fit for me, bringing together my interest in neuroscience and the brain, but actually applied applications in people. And I went and met with one of the professors of neuropsychology in Melbourne, and I thought I was going to be interested in dementia and stroke. And then I went along to the comprehensive epilepsy program meeting at the Austin Hospital in Melbourne and saw how unique and individual every case that came through the door is. And that really captured my imagination, and that's how I've ended up in epilepsy now. So one of the things that I think is, it's not necessarily special to Australia, but it's certainly an issue in Australia, is the vast geography, open spaces of the country, and how far removed people can be from major metropolitan centres. And in neuropsychology, which has traditionally been based on face-to-face assessments, this is a real barrier for people, especially in something like epilepsy, where part and parcel of their epilepsy is often driving restrictions. And so getting in to see a neuropsychologist can be a real problem. And recognising this as a major problem, this is actually something that we in the team that's part of the Australian Epilepsy Project are really trying to tackle head on. And we've been working here with Christoph Helmstadter as well to develop video conference integrated neuropsychological cognitive testing software so that we can reach people anywhere. Like, all they need is a computer, all they need is a video conference connection, and then we can deliver tailored, focused, to the point assessments of domains that are especially relevant to epilepsy. And while the model here is really being developed in the setting of epilepsy, we actually think the model, it really should be generalizable to all neuropsychological conditions. Like, it's going to have applications in dementia, it's going to have applications in stroke, concussion, TBI. We really think this is the future of how neuropsychology is going to be delivered, and it was really going to plug a gap in the healthcare system. So I think the first point I would probably make is that a scanner doesn't care what you think your task is about or your paradigm is about. It's just sitting there blindly measuring changes in brain activity. So what I'm really trying to make is this point that you really need to know and understand your paradigms if you're going to be able to interpret them and make sense of them. So a second point would be around when people are developing tasks for fMRI, so things like a language lateralization task, for instance, often a lot of thought goes into how do we develop a paradigm that's going to activate the language system in a certain way, and less thought is given to what is the baseline condition against which we're going to compare that. Because the fMRI as a method, it's sensitive to relative signal change, not absolute signal change. And so you need to think just as hard about the design of your baseline task relative to your active task if you're going to pull meaningful and useful information out of the task. And then three points. A third point, I think, is I still think the field has a tendency to view cognitive fMRI as a where question. So where in the brain is something happening? But I think what really hasn't been tapped as well as it could be is using fMRI as a temporally unfolding signal to understand how processes unfold over time in the brain in support of cognition, and using these, especially with these high temporal resolution and high spatial resolution scans that we can achieve now, using that to understand how brain systems work together flexibly to give rise to cognition.